Yeah.
You want to like him, but you can't.
Are you listening?
What?
Are you listening?
Did you bring me on this show to insult me?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all don't want it with us, man. You straight gangsters over here.
Straight
man.
gangsters. Yeah, welcome back. You are listening to Scout Team Sports. It is a beautiful Friday morning, November 2nd, and we are bringing it to you hot. I am one of your gracious co-hosts. They call me
You are the most egotistical, self-deluded person I have ever met.
And the man on the other microphone is one of the greatest patriots I have ever met in my entire life. He actually hates Fridays, but still loves America.
Yeah, it's your boy Chris America coming to you live this Friday. What is today? The 2nd of November. Loudbeard, it was a great night last night. Stayed up late watching lots of football. Man, I love sports and I love football. How was your night at the Spectrum Stadium? At the, what is it called? The Jump House?
It's called the Bounce House. It
That's
gets
right,
a
the
little
Bounce
rowdy, ruckus in there. Great evening of college football last night. I was live at the UCF game, UCF versus Temple, and I had to say that it was a great experience. A good back and forth game. You stayed up late and watched it yourself. You were able to witness it for your own eyes. This was a good matchup. Temple is, to me, an underrated team. They started out the year kind of slow, lost a few games early, games they probably shouldn't have lost, but have been a really good team as of late. Big win last week up against the undefeated Cincinnati Bearcats, and coming in with a lot of momentum, and a lot of these American Conference teams are trying to knock UCF off. You know, they know that UCF right now is at the top of the conference, and they're coming in, and they're shooting for it, man. They're going all in, trying to take out this UCF team, this undefeated national championship team that, you know, has brought so much attention to this program. And I almost said Cincinnati. Temple comes into the Bounce House, and they put up a huge fight, but in the end, the national champions were triumphant, Chris America. It was a great battle. What did you see watching it at home?
Well, I saw lots and lots of offense, and then I saw ESPN, which praises the Big 12 for having tons of offense and always getting into shootouts and allowing their teams to make it to the playoff, tell us that UCF doesn't deserve to get into the playoffs because they allowed another team to have 677 yards. That's what I witnessed. Honestly, I wish the American would move off of ESPN. They spent a good 15, 20 minutes towards the end of the game just repeating the same lazy, tired lines about why UCF doesn't deserve to get in. And I'm not really even mad that they said that. It's just they went on and on and on for 20 minutes. The Thursday night crew that they have right now is awful. There was a couple of plays where the guy would go out of bounds 2 yards short of the first down. The play-by-play guy would say, "Oh, I think he's short." No, dude, he just went out of bounds 2 yards short. Why can you not see this? And then Gene Chizik, I can't stand listening to him. I can't stand when a terrible coach who was carried by his offensive coordinator and NFL MVP quarterback to a national championship talks about how good of a coach he is because he got handed a national championship to him. So I wish they would get rid of him. I miss my boy from the Florida Gators. Now I can't think.
Tim Tebow?
Uh,
Are we talking about Tim Tebow right now?
No, the guy from The Bachelor. Why can't I think of his name right now?
Jordan Rodgers?
Yeah, that's it.
You mean Aaron Rodgers' brother?
Yep.
You had to say he's from the Gators. Like, you could have just said Aaron Rodgers' brother. You know, that would have made a lot more sense. You know, I'm glad you brought this up.
Jesse Palmer.
Oh, okay, that guy. So Jesse Palmer. Nope. Yeah, he's decent. We'll go with that. I guess because he's a Gator. I don't know. He's still a talking head. I am glad you brought this up about ESPN and what they were talking about because being at the game live, I did not get to hear these comments live, but afterwards, I was looking at my Twitter feed, and I have a lot of UCF fans on my Twitter feed, and I got to hear like everybody complain on how biased ESPN was being towards UCF. It's a total narrative that they're trying to build up, and I don't understand why. Still, to this day, I don't understand why. I mean, I get that the big money is in the big programs, but it sounds like the narrative that ESPN is trying to set up on the broadcast is that UCF's not good enough. And let's just find every little weakness that UCF has and exploit it. Let's talk about, hey, the defense wasn't good. Well, let's bring up the fact that UCF did. They got slashed in the first half, 34 points. But you know what? This is a bend, not break defense, right? Chris America, Randy Shannon is known for that. This is what he brings to the table. In the second half, they only allowed 6 points for a high-powered Temple Owls offense that they can come out and just score in bunches. They only allowed 6 points in the second half, and they stepped up in the second half. Why don't we talk about that? Let's talk about, let's say, the adjustments at halftime. Let's talk about the defensive coordinator who is a well-respected football defensive mind, and let's talk about how well he game planned in halftime and how well he made adjustments and how well he got his defense to stand up against a very tough Temple team. Let's talk about that, Chris America. No. We're just going to talk about, hey, let's look at how many yards, not the points on the board, because guess what? UCF had more points on the board at the end of the game than Temple, and that should be the biggest stat you should look at. But no, when you're a lazy broadcaster on a network that wants to promote their big brands and they don't care about brands like UCF because they're not making enough money off of us, that's when you start getting these like, well, look at the defense. Well, look at this. Well, you know what? That offense can score 50-plus points any given night against any given team. And right now they have, I think it was like the last 15 games have scored 30-plus points in every game. So, yeah, the defense gives up a little bit. But let's talk about how great this offense is. And with Mackenzie Milton back behind quarterback, you're looking at one of the top offenses in the league. And for your sake, Chris America, I hope this is a top 5 offense.
It is the top 5 offense, and people don't realize Jeff Collins, first of all, the head coach of Temple, is from the vaunted Florida defenses. Even though Florida's been bad the last 9 years, when Jeff Collins was at the Florida Gators, I believe back in 2013, I want to say, I don't know, he was in the Will Muschamp years, or no, he was Coach Mack's defensive coordinator. That defense carried the Florida Gators to a 10-2 record in an SEC championship game. And he's got this Temple Owls defense in the top 30 in all categories, whether it's defensive efficiency, cornerbacks, DBs, or backfield passing defense efficiency. They listed all their stats, and UCF shredded them. And one of the things that really annoyed me is if you want to say schedule, you can say schedule. If you want to say Temple's not that good, say Temple's not that good. But if you watch some of the throws that Mackenzie Milton made with guys on them, especially on the sideline, he made so many perfect, on-the-money, back shoulder throws. The first touchdown, the guy was covered, and he threw it right to the perfect spot in the corner of the end zone that 99% of college quarterbacks cannot make those kind of throws on the consistent level that Mackenzie Milton is throwing right now. Now, Mackenzie Milton made a few mistakes, especially that one interception late in the game, but I think sometimes Mackenzie Milton gets too comfortable and just kind of gets a little cocky towards the end of the game when he's just throwing the ball so easily against the defense. But even if you were to give SEC defenses or NFL defenses against Mackenzie Milton, you got to evaluate the type of throws and the type of accuracy he has, that it wouldn't matter if you covered him any better. And the Temple Owl defense was covering UCF's receivers fairly decently. There was a lot of throws in traffic, a lot of, like I said, a lot of back shoulder throws, a lot of leading the passes or leading the receiver type throws, throwing your receiver open. These are things that you don't see a lot out of quarterbacks. Now, Tua Tagovailoa is a great quarterback who's doing the same exact thing, and he's doing it against really, really crappy defenses. Alabama's only played one top 50 defense this this season so far. If my numbers serve me correctly, there might be Tennessee. I think might be also another top 50, but I'd have to double check. They've been routed a few times since Alabama's played them, but either way, it's not like Tua is throwing against great defenses yet so far this season, and we're still praising him, and we're still giving him the credit, and yet somehow we just discredit McKenzie Milton because of who he's playing, and we're not evaluating the type of quarterback he is. But with that said, I'll give you a negative evaluation, Loudbeard. It is a bend but don't break defense, but right now it's a defense that can't tackle. It is awful at tackling, and if they go against Alabama or Clemson tackling like that, they're going to have to be perfect on offense in order to beat those teams.
Yeah, there was definitely some missed tackles. The quarterback for Temple ran all over UCF's defense. Anytime there was a little bit of pressure in the pocket, he just stepped up and then just started running, and he was getting 10, 15, 20 yards, no problem. The running back for Temple, he looked like a superstar out there running up against UCF, and they did. They struggled with tackling. They struggled with stopping. And honestly, looking back at the first half, that was a really, really lackluster defensive performance, and tackling was one of the biggest issues. I thought it was better in the second half, but yeah, this team has a long way to go. They do have a lot of deficiencies there on the defensive side. I can't talk about it too much because they did still get the win, but when they go up against some better teams, and they will be later in the year, they really are going to have to shore up the tackling. That's a fundamental thing with in football. You have to be able to tackle, and yeah, it was a struggle, it seemed like, all night long for UCF.
And to be honest with you, I think that might come from Randy Shannon because there's a lot of tackling frustrations that I had when he was our defensive coordinator at Florida. I noticed that a lot of times they're going for a big hit, or they're trying to knock the ball loose, or they're trying to strip the football, and that equals in a lot of missed tackles. And I know what the concept is. Let's try to create some turnovers. Let's try to get the ball. And UCF has created a lot of turnovers this year, but secure the tackle first, especially when you're tackling a running back behind the line. Sometimes getting a team set behind the chains is a lot better than getting a fumble. You're more likely to stop them on third down when it's third and long or third and average than you are to try and strip the tackle and let them get down to the 3rd and 2.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going to change gears a little bit. I'm going to still talk about UCF, but I was watching the game live, and to me, the uniforms and the helmets looked awesome on the field, but I saw some mixed reactions on Twitter. Chris America, what's your unbiased opinion? Did you love or hate the Space Game uniform last night for the UCF Knights?
I love them because, number one, they're a cool concept. And I saw a couple of people criticizing them. One Gator fan said that they looked like pajamas, and I quickly tweeted at him with our reptilian scales green uniforms we wore last year and said we should sit this criticism out, fam. Let's not throw stones inside of our horrible uniform glass house. I loved them, though. I thought the concept was cool, and I understand if you're not from the Central Florida area, the relationship between UCF and NASA and how big of a deal NASA is to the Central Florida area, how awesome it is to have NASA in your backyard. And it brought back a lot of memories of me as a kid going out to Cape Canaveral and watching the space shuttle take off, watching the shuttle launch, and just how cool that is growing up in that area. And for UCF to pay homage to it, to pay, respect and honor to NASA and what they mean to our country, what they mean to America, I think it's awesome. And it's far better than any other concept, like putting scales on your uniform or whatever else other teams got going on with their stupid uniform concepts. So I loved it.
All right. I like this because I loved it also. I'm a biased opinion coming in hot here. And, being there live, seeing them come out of the tunnel, it was cool. It was a very cool look. It was hard to see exactly all the details of the uniform sitting up in the stands, but I did get to see, the bright glowing stripe that was on the helmet, You got to see some of the constellations on the shoulder pads. You got to see all that. And then at the stadium, they were throwing up just facts about UCF and how it's contributed to the space program and just the long relationship from the very beginning when UCF started as Florida Technical University, and how it had a relationship then with NASA and how that's grown over the years. And they would throw out simple factoids like, hey, there's 2 UCF professors that have asteroids named after them. Hey, there's 2 UCF alumni that are on the list. They're like at the top of the list to be the first to inhabit Mars in 2026 when SpaceX sends them up there. Like just random facts like that. And you realize, wow, we are that close to NASA. And there is an aerospace program at UCF that just does a lot of work with NASA. And, you know, the community here in Central Florida has been a big part of the space program for such a long time. And the space program, you know, died out when the shuttle program kind of fizzled away and the economy wasn't looking good and everything was kind of put to the back burner. But right now the space program is back. It is growing, and UCF is just a huge partner to that and paying homage to it on the field. It was a lot of fun, and just having that uniform out there. I mean, I thought it was just cutting edge. We talk about Oregon having these great uniforms, and Maryland sometimes has these wacky uniforms. But when you see this come out, this was like a big game for UCF, and this was a great just dedication to the space program and what it meant to the community and what it means to the university. I loved it, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of good times.
Yeah, Loudbeard, if you're a fan listening right now to our show and you hate the fact that UCF claimed a national championship, you probably hate to also know that UCF has a planet named after them. They claimed a planet. It's kind of what you get to do when you discover a planet. You get to name it, and there's a planet. I don't remember like the numbers behind it, but it was basically called like UCF and a bunch of numbers, or I think it was planet, bunch of numbers, UCF. But there's a planet out there with the title UCF attached to it, and we claim it.
You know what? They actually renamed it this year. You didn't hear the news?
I didn't. What did they rename it?
They renamed it to UCF National Champions, bunch of numbers.
Bunch of numbers. I got you.
Okay, that's wait, or was it a bunch of numbers, UCF National Champions? Either way.
People will probably be mad about that, but you know, when a major college selector, national championship selector recognized by the NCAA calls you national champion, you get to claim that. And when you discover a planet and you're the one that discovered it and NASA confirms it and everybody in the space community says, yep, that planet exists, we see it too, you get to claim that as your planet as well. So deal with it, America. But let's roll into other games this weekend. We kind of we didn't really go over any college games, but I want to talk about this Alabama-LSU matchup. And we talked a little bit about the Alabama's going against no defenses and everything. And I also saw a video of another talking head media member in the National, this time not about UCF and Alabama, just about Alabama and Clemson and how he's tired of hearing about how they don't play anybody. And he went on this long tirade about it. And then he brought up the fact that, oh, I bet you the same people that say Alabama doesn't play anybody say that the Patriots don't play anybody. And I kind of chuckled at that, Loudbeard, because so far the Patriots have played 3 playoff teams, 3 teams that are leading their division and are really good, and the Houston Texans, the Chiefs, and I couldn't remember who that third team was. I'd have to look at their schedule.
Bills. They're really
no,
good.
It wasn't them. Who was the other? I'll look up their schedule. And then they have left.
Jets.
And then
They're
they have left
really
on their
good.
schedule. I'll look it up. I'll look it up right now. But then they have the Packers next, and 2 other the Ravens and the Steelers. So they'll play 6 of the top 12 teams so far this season. And this schmo wants to compare Alabama's schedule to that. And this isn't picking on Alabama. This is a college football problem, but we digress. We've been talking about that ad nauseum. Let's talk about the game of the week, LSU versus Alabama. Do you think LSU can beat them?
Oh, absolutely. LSU can beat them. Will they beat them? That's a different story. LSU has a lot of talent. Right now they're ranked in the top 5. I think you and I have differing opinions on what the College Football Playoff Committee thinks LSU is and what we actually think they are. To me, they're still a top 10 team, but I think they're the lower half of the top 10, not the top half of the top 10. And with that being said, Alabama, until they show us that they have a weakness, I wouldn't bet against them. There's no way that I can come out and say Alabama's going to lose. I can't, with a clear conscience, come out and say that. And because of that, yes, I think Alabama will win. But that doesn't mean that LSU doesn't have a fighting chance. That does not mean that LSU can't come out and show Alabama something that they haven't seen all year, because Alabama has not been tested, and Alabama needs to be tested. And this is the opportunity where a big program, an LSU, under the guise of Coach Ed Orgeron, can come out and show that they are valuable, show their worth, and show that they are better than Alabama. And I'm excited to watch it. I don't want to give too much analysis, whatever that word is. I'm not going to analyze. Is that the plural? I don't want to give any more of that than I need to, because this is just a game I want to sit back, I want to watch, and I hope it's good. I don't want to blow out. I don't want to see Alabama run all over them. I want to see a close game to the very end and let the best team win. And let's just sit back and do that.
Yeah, and just to go back to what I said, the Patriots played division-leading Houston, division-leading Kansas City, division-leading Chicago. They'll play probably playoff team Green Bay. They'll play fringe playoff team Tennessee, probably playoff team Minnesota, division-leading Pittsburgh on their schedule.
Man, this guy got to you, didn't he?
No.
Really
and then if we're using college football logic, they played at the time top team Jacksonville. Anyways,
okay.
But I digress. LSU, Alabama, if you love those defensive games, the games that are low scoring and won by a bunch of field goals, this is your game for you. I'm not that person that likes that kind of game, but this is the game for you, and that I don't see this year being any different. It will be interesting to see Tua go against LSU's defense, because LSU's defense does hold Alabama's offense in check for the most part. But I'm interested. I'm actually a fan of Tua. I think he's a really good quarterback, and I think it's really cool that Alabama finally has a quarterback that's worth their weight in gold. And I'm excited to see him grow as a college player. I'm excited to see what he can do in the NFL. I love the idea of another new, really good quarterback coming into the NFL, because my goal and my dream, Loudbeard, is just to have a whole bunch of really good quarterbacks spread along the NFL. And each year, you never know who's going to win the playoffs. Like, I'm so tired of just seeing New England make it to the AFC Championship every year, or that the fact that the AFC has only had four quarterbacks since 2004 win the AFC title. I want to see like a rotating door of different teams going in and out of the Super Bowl like we see in the World Series.
Yeah, and I mean, you get that a little bit more in the NFC, but you're right. The AFC has been kind of four quarterback centric, and Tua, this guy, I mean, right now he's the leader in the house for Heisman, right? Nobody's arguing that. He's got to be the number one choice for Heisman going into the where we're at right now in the season. And it's because he has been so explosive. He's not even playing entire games, they're still bringing out Jalen Hurts. Usually it's when they're blowing out the other team, so he's only playing 2-3 quarters. But, seeing him up against a real defense, a defense that can stand tough, a defense that'll be ready for this matchup. This is the one they circled on their calendar at the beginning of the year, knowing that this will be a huge matchup. So LSU's going to be ready. And, Nick Saban is a genius when it comes to football and preparation. So Alabama's going to be ready, and Tua is going to be out there just slinging the ball around. Oh, man, I am looking forward to this game. Again, I don't want to just talk about it too much, because I'm just thinking that I want to see what can be put out there. And you're talking about low-scoring games. That was the Alabama of the past. That was the Jalen Hurts Alabama. This Tua Alabama, this team is a little bit more, hey, let's strike first, let's strike fast, and let's just run up the score, and then we'll worry, let the defense take care of everything else after the fact. So right now you're looking at a different style of Alabama team than we have seen in the past. And LSU, I think they have overachieved this year, and they are better than advertised. And again, I'm ready for my popcorn. This is definitely the game of the week. Even though there's some other great games on the schedule, this is the game that I'm probably most looking forward to. So, Chris America, I don't know what you're thinking out there, but LSU, Alabama, I guess I'm going to give a score. I'm going to give a score prediction. I'm going to say that the score ends up being 42-35, Alabama with the win. Is that fair?
Yeah, sorry, I lost connection there, so I had to exit the studio and come back in. So, I don't know what the score you said, but I'll say it's fair.
42-35.
32-35?
42-35, Alabama.
If I don't know that LSU can score that many points on Alabama's defense, to be honest. If LSU's to win this game, I really think they need it to be the typical defensive game and actually get it in. LSU is a really good team. I know I've criticized them and their overweighted schedule, overrated schedule that they have, but they're still a really talented team. They're going to have a lot of players drafted in the NFL, but I'm not a big fan of their quarterback, Joe Burrow. He did not impress me at all against the Gators. He made a few big throws, but a lot of the times we just pressured him, made him look lost, and created turnovers, especially towards the end of the game. He's going to have to play 10 times better if he's going to keep up with Alabama's offense. But their defense has got to come in and help them out and create a lot of turnovers and hold Alabama to maybe 14 to 20 points. I think if this game goes above 20 points, Alabama is just going to cruise for a big victory.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama runs the score up and just completely annihilates LSU. That would not surprise me one bit. Now, if it was the opposite, if LSU annihilated Alabama, now I would be shocked. There's no way that I think that would happen.
But it would be one of the funniest things to watch.
Yes. It would be like watching Purdue beat Ohio State. That's what it would feel like when you're sitting there thinking, wow, Ohio State really is not that good. And look at Purdue. They look like they're really a heavy hitter out there.
No, they don't. They turned around and lost to Michigan State.
No. Well,
at the time, yeah.
Come on. I'm not talking. You think I'm keeping an eye on Purdue every week? It was just the 1 week. I'm just saying, in that game, you're watching Purdue and you're like, wow, this team's really good. And no, they're not. They're not really good. It was just Ohio State's not that good, but they are Ohio State. When you're a Buckeye, you get all the love, but you don't get any of the criticism, even if you have a shady program with shady coaching and shadiness all around.
And here I thought you were going to give us one of your bona fide. I've been a Boilermaker for life.
Nope. I'm not going to say that this week. We'll see. If they win this week, maybe different. I'm keeping a good eye on Purdue. Got them right there in my peripheral. Keeping an eye on them. All right, other great games this weekend. You can't just talk about the big game and not talk about some of these other good games. I would say the second best game on the slate this weekend would have to be Georgia-Kentucky. What do you think that's the second best game on the slate, Chris America?
Yeah, I think so. We want to see how good Kentucky is again. I think Kentucky's a really good team. Now they get a chance to prove it one more time, and I hope that if they do beat Georgia, that they jump up like LSU did. They jump up 8 spots into the top 4, because if they're a 8-1 team in the SEC and the committee and nobody else is biased and they're not the team, the group of people we think they are that only recognizes name instead of value of football team, I mean, it's a disgrace that they're not ranked higher, just like UCF isn't ranked higher. And it's just because of their name. We know that. But, yeah, I think that's going to be a good game. There's really not much else going on this weekend outside of that, I don't think.
Really? I have several games on here that I think that are going to be fun to watch. And we'll go through them pretty quickly because, we're going to have a commercial break here in a couple minutes. But before we get to the commercial break, I want to say Notre Dame versus Northwestern. Yeah, maybe this isn't a sexy game on paper, but Notre Dame sitting there, they're at the 4th spot in the college football rankings. And you got Northwestern coming in, and Northwestern has been a good team as of late. They've got
been
big
solid
wins. Yeah, they've got big wins over Wisconsin, big win over Michigan State, and they took Michigan to the end, lost by 3 to Michigan this year. So they've had some pretty good matchups. They show up in big games. I'm going to put it that way. It seems like some of these lesser teams that they play down to the level of their the talent on that team. But when they play a big team, it seems like they show up. So to me, this week, my upset special, Northwestern getting the victory over Notre Dame. That's what I'm predicting right here, putting it out there for you. I've been a Northwestern fan my whole life. I like the purple uniforms. Mike Greenberg, the big talent at ESPN that does that great show. What is it called? The Get Up that 700 people tune into every week.
Yeah.
That one, he's a big Northwestern fan. I like that too.
Yeah, and so is Mike Wilbon.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he's smart. So I like smart people that like smart teams because whatever, I'm smart, and I pick Northwestern.
I like that pick, and I didn't mean like there's not going to be good games. There's probably going to be some really good football teams between really evenly matched teams, but there's no like two teams where you're like, oh my God, these two teams, this is must-watch TV and everything else, but not like there's going to be a lot of good football games that you must watch this weekend in NFL. But before we go to commercial break, Loudbeard, you missed last night's game, but Janine Garoppolo, or Jimmy Garoppolo, he might not be the quarterback of the future for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan might have to Mullins his decision over.
The sporting news? Okay, then tell me, who won swimming national championships this year? Oh, you don't know that? How about gymnastics? Do you know who's ranked number 1 in the PGA Tour? How about who won the last major in tennis? Are there some sporting news that you're not getting? Check us out at A Sip of Sports on 12 Ounce Sports, and you will get to know all the sporting news, all in less than 30 minutes.
Man, Ricky, this music is pumping. Yeah, well, I don't like it. What you mean, man? I wish we could hear the game instead. Oh, I got you. Hold on. Here, listen to 12 Ounce Sports Radio, live lacrosse and hockey. What about the girls? I'm sure they can twerk to this stuff. Here, look. Jeff Beck's Work Week in Review. Ladies dig this guy. Man, Ricky, this music is pumping. Yeah, well, I don't like it. What you mean, man? I wish we could hear the game instead. Oh, I got you. Hold on. Here, listen to 12 Ounce Sports Radio, live lacrosse and hockey. What about the girls? I'm sure they can twerk to this stuff. Here, look. Jeff Beck's Work Week in Review. Ladies dig this guy.
Hello, and thanks for listening to 12 Ounce Sports Radio. If you'd like to advertise with us, go to our website, www.12ozsportsradio.com, navigate to the menu item called Advertise with Us, and you'll see our extremely low rates to get right to your target audience. We'd say we're the industry low, but we didn't do the research. We just looked up the average rate for radio advertising, and I can say we're much, much lower than that. And we'll even cut you a deal for long-term advertising on 12 Ounce Sports Radio. You'll get ads on our website every show, including the live shows, and throughout the day on Auto DJ. Nowhere else can you get that kind of service for such a low advertising cost. So check us out, www.12ozsportsradio.com, or email us at sales@12ouncesportsradio.com. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you for listening to 12 Ounce Sports Radio. If you're an avid listener, you'll notice we've had many gambling shows join our station. The Primetime Angles Show, the Vegas Squares, Nate Wall, and many more, as well as writers too. With that in mind, you should join MyBookie, MyBookie. Use the promo code 12OZ Sports. Use all caps, and you'll get up to an $1,000 deposit bonus, courtesy of 12 Ounce Sports Radio. So be sure to go to mybookie.ag, sign up, and use the promo code 12OZ Sports, all caps, to get that deposit bonus. Now go out there and win and cash that ticket as possible.
Yeah, welcome back, listeners. You're listening to the Scout Team. He's Chris America. I'm Loudbeard. We're bringing it to you hot on this Friday morning, and I can't talk right tonight because I was out late last night watching a beautiful UCF game. Got 3.5 hours of sleep, and it's still, I'm here, I'm loving it, and we're talking sports. And Chris America, he was talking about, he's having to Mullins it over. I just needed to say real quick, that needs to get some love right there. But thank you for listening in every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. on 12 Ounce Sports Radio. You can catch the Scout Team Daily Show. We love it. We call our show Scout Team Sports because we love talking sports, but we talk more than that. We talk about anything and everything in the entertainment world. We just talk a little bit more about sports than we do everything else. And if you want to catch any of our old episodes or podcasts, you can check it out on our website, scoutteamradio.com, or check it out anywhere podcasts are found, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts. And with that being said, Chris America, you're going to Mullins it over as soon as you get an opportunity. But, you're just like ready to just jump ship on college football. You're like, oh, there's no good games. Penn State's not playing Michigan, right? No,
I forgot about that game.
Let's
no,
not even
you're right.
talk about that big game.
Oh, man. Miss America is going to be mad at me, too, that I forgot about that game. I forgot. You're right.
I'm just going to run down this list real quick, and then we'll move on to some NFL. But I like the Texas A&M Auburn game. I think that'll be a good matchup.
That was a good matchup at the beginning of the year.
Right. Now that they're both not that great, it's still a decent matchup. Well, Auburn's really
Texas A&M has honestly played better than I thought they would, and Auburn's played a lot worse than I thought they would. So we'll see how that goes. You know what's going to happen is if Auburn wins, they're going to put Auburn back in the top 25 for no reason at all other than they play Alabama.
Reason. Yeah.
But
another great matchup. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to oversell this just because the Golden Ghost, he's a good friend of ours. He's a big FSU fan. FSU versus NC State. Maybe a little bit of redemption for FSU to get a little respect back in college football after that shellacking they took at the hands of Clemson last week. We'll see how this goes, but no confidence in FSU. You?
I lost confidence in FSU 2 summers ago.
West Virginia, Texas. This could be a good matchup. You got Will Grier, Florida Gator legend, going up against the Longhorns. It should be fun.
Yeah, should be a good game. Will Grier, I think if they could throw up a bunch of points. Texas has really only shown one time that they have a really good offense, and that was against Oklahoma. Other times they've kind of struggled to put points on the board, especially against other teams that aren't that good. So we'll see how they do.
Yep. Well, those are the games I had down on my list of must-watch TV this weekend. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to go out to a sports bar and probably sit there and drink and watch a bunch of football. It's going to be the most glorious thing ever, Chris America. I'm looking forward to it. And now that my UCF Knights have already won this week, I can relax and just enjoy any game I want to enjoy. And there's so many good games this weekend, especially that LSU-Alabama game. That's going to be the cherry on the top. I'm telling you right now, it'll be good. But last night, I think San Francisco put the cherry on top of their season, if you will. I think they showed up and they brought in a superstar at quarterback. We'll call him the secret weapon. They called him Weapon X. They bring him in, and nobody knew what to expect. But San Francisco got a special treat, and that was the great Nick Mullins.
Yes, Nick Mullins, undrafted free agent out of Southern Mississippi in 2017, and he gets the surprise start. I guess they're abandoning ship on C.J. Beathard. Maybe he was a little injured, but they still listed him as the backup. And Nick Mullins came in, and if there's anything I love more, it's a guy that's given an opportunity, somebody that's not named, and he just takes it. He just runs with it. Could this Loudbeard be the Kurt Warner, the next Kurt Warner that we didn't see coming, the guy that nobody heard of, and he becomes an NFL superstar, a Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Could we see that, Loudbeard, or am I being a little too premature?
You are premature.
What I do?
What she said. So man, it's hard to gauge it off of one game. Number one,
especially against the Raiders.
They're going up against the Oakland Raiders. The John Gruden-led Oakland Raiders, who is, at this moment, he is in lose-now mode. He wants high draft picks. He wants to trade away all of his talent on his team so that he can build a team of the future. And he is looking at the future. He is not in a win-now mode, regardless of what he says in press conferences, regardless of what he's trying to tell the media, what he's trying to tell the fans. He is in lose-now mode so that when they move to Las Vegas, this team can be kind of that young, exciting, look at these young stars that they drafted with all of those draft picks they had. And that's what he's going for. He's long-term vision. So with that being said, if you were a defensive player on the Oakland Raiders and you knew that your team was in lose-now mode, would you be motivated? Would you get up for this Thursday night game? It's hard enough on a Thursday night game because it's a short week and it just throws off your whole routine. And when you know that your team is just basically done, you have no motivation. And then on the flip side, if you are a young quarterback who you never thought you would even see the field in the NFL, but you have been working your tail off to get that opportunity to make the team and to be out there, and you get your shot, you get your call, and you are out there, you are ready to just light the world on fire. So Nick Mullins, he could be the next Tom Brady. Or
I don't want to go that
Warner.
far. Kurt Warner is better.
Okay. Is that too far? Did I go too far?
Yeah. Tom Brady's a little too far. Tom Brady's the GOAT. We all know this. Even Aaron Rodgers said it.
Yeah. I will say that I'd love to see what he can do. It'll be fun if he ends up kind of igniting this team and they go in like a 2, 3, 4 game winning streak. That he'll be the talk of the town. Nick Mullins will be the guy that everybody's like, hey, maybe we need to trade for him. Or maybe we need to trade for Jimmy G because they've already got their quarterback. And then all of a sudden this big quarterback controversy will happen. I mean, it just makes great stuff to talk about on sports radio, right?
Yeah, Loudbeard, I want to say to all the fans listening right now, my best advice in life to do, especially with sports, is live in the moment. When you see the moment, live in it, relish in it, celebrate it, be a part of it. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Just live in today. And all the things you mentioned, they're all fair points. The Thursday night football, the Raiders are bad. He had his first opportunity. A lot of guys make the most of it. But this guy had 151.9 QBR last night, and it is the best QBR debut since the merger of the NFL and the AFL. So I'm going to live in that moment. This kid is really good. He looked excellent last night, and he also proved how good Shanahan is as a coach. And we've made the 49ers, we've been saying that the 49ers are the best one-win team in the NFL, and they showed it at least against the Oakland Raiders that they're far superior than where the Raiders are at and what the Raiders have going on there. And you're right. I think if Mullins can continue this play, they can rattle off a few more wins. And then the 49ers, this is what's great about it. If Mullins leads the 49ers to a bunch of wins, it'll lead them out of the top 5 of the draft, right, Loudbeard?
Yes.
But then they can take Mullins and go to a team in the top 5 looking for a quarterback and say, yeah, you can draft, Tua or Will Grier or any of the other litany of quarterbacks that we have no idea how they'll play in the NFL, or you can take our guy off our hands who you've seen the last 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season just light up NFL defenses, and you can give us that number 1 overall draft pick or that number 2 overall draft pick for him. Plus, I want you to throw in a few other picks because, again, You've seen this guy in the NFL. You've seen what he can do against NFL defenses, so pay up.
Oh, yeah.
Pay up, man.
Pay up. Got to pay the piper if you want a good quarterback.
Well, that's a good strategy. It's the opposite of the Oakland Raiders strategy of just going all in for the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you can go either way with that. This kind of happened to the 49ers last year. They bring in Jimmy G and they win a bunch at the end of the year, but it's kind of too little too late. They're out of the playoffs. They don't get an early draft pick. But they say, well, let's go ahead and get this undrafted guy, have him come in, look amazing. And you're right, the value of a quarterback. I've seen this year after year after year. Brock Osweiler gets a huge deal in Houston when he becomes a free agent. And, you know, if he was signed with the Broncos at the time, when he got traded or when he went to Houston, they could have traded for assets. When people see just a little bit of potential, even if it's not really for a good reason, like Johnny Flynn a few years ago, a little bit of potential, and all of a sudden teams are just throwing money at these guys, throwing draft picks away, and willing to do whatever it takes. And you're right, if Nick Mullins ends up being a really just good quarterback to great quarterback this rest of this year, there will be a team out there, whether it's the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Denver Broncos or maybe one of these teams that drafted somebody that's not really panning out, like Arizona Cardinals or the Buffalo Bills because Josh Allen can't stay on the field. Who knows? But you're right. It could happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams. When you mentioned Jacksonville, that is a team that isn't really looking to start all over with a rookie quarterback. I mean, they might be willing to do that, but I don't know if anybody in Jacksonville has the patience for that to say, yeah, let's go out and grab another guy that could or could not make it, and let's groom him up for the next 3 years while we have this great defense on the other side of the ball ready to win championships. Maybe they do make that play. Maybe the New York Giants look to make the trade and get Eli out of there and move on with the future with a guy that's ready to roll, ready to go, and not looking to groom him up. So a lot of different options out there. And Loudbeard, we got about 8 minutes left, and I want to go over some of these games. I said that college football didn't have any games. I know I glossed over. I missed the Michigan versus Penn State game. I completely forgot. That's a huge game. Can't believe I did that. Like I said, Miss America is going to be mad at me that I didn't say that. But really, you have Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, Penn State, and LSU, Alabama. But here's what's on the schedule this weekend that I'm really excited about for the NFL.
Real quick, before
first
you
of
get
all,
into that, we're getting some interaction on Twitter.
What's that?
We have Memphis Spence. He's just tweeted at us. If anybody wants to tweet at us, we're at Scout Team Radio on Twitter. He said that Flynn was like the Milli Vanilli of NFL quarterbacks. I had to throw that out there.
That's good. I mean, that's true.
The games this week in the NFL are great, but I don't know if you're up for it. I could throw out a couple Who's Your Daddies for these games. You think?
All right, go ahead. Let's hear it.
All right. So I'm going to start out. Obviously, this is the game of the week because it's the Washington Redskins, but you have Black Captain America, Adrian Peterson, versus Matty Ice.
Who's your daddy?
Well, Atlanta's defense is awful, and I think Adrian Peterson's going to put up another stellar game where Washington Redskins defense is really, really good. The thing that's interesting about this matchup is it's a 5-2 team versus a 3-4 team, but the 3-4 team is supposed to be really good. They were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were in the playoffs last year. Their 3-4 is a very surprising record. They could easily jump up and beat the Washington Redskins because they're a good team, because they're a team that needs to get back on their winning ways. They've been winning a couple of games. They've been stringing together some wins. So, Loudbeard, your Redskins need to be on upset alert this week.
I don't like that answer, but we'll go with it. These are going to get better as we go, so you just gotta bear with me because this one, you've got Nathan Peterman leading the Bills Mafia versus Khalil Mack in that Chicago Bears defense.
Who's your daddy?
Yeah, so the Bills have this pretend mafia in Buffalo. Chicago had a real mafia where there was a Valentine's Day massacre in Chicago. Let's go with real mafia beating up this fake pretend mafia that gets drunk and does flying elbows onto tables.
All right, so this next one, after failure after failure after failure of Jameis Winston, the Fitzmagic is back in Tampa Bay as Ryan Fitzmagic goes up against former NFL MVP Cam Newton. I have to ask you, Chris America.
Who's your daddy?
Cam Newton all day long. I think we're going to get interception machine Fitzmagic again. My boy Luke Kuechly knows how to call a defense, knows how to, read offenses and everything. We're going to win big.
All right, so this is where the matchups get a little bit more interesting. I'm going to say young running backs are going to rule this game. You have the hot New Orleans Saints with the young Alvin Kamara who can do anything on the field versus the undefeated Rams with Todd Gurley, who in my opinion is the early MVP of the season.
Who's your daddy?
We talked about how LSU, the Louisiana team, going against the undefeated best team in the country, Alabama, and how back and forth that game could be, or it could be a blowout. We don't know. This game is by far a much better matchup, a much better game. The Rams are red hot. They're undefeated. They just added another defensive player. They're looking at winning a Super Bowl this year. However, the New Orleans Saints are here to remind us that they are also a really good team. They have a Hall of Fame quarterback. They could easily be the top team in the NFC, and this game will be the one that'll help them prove it. If they make Los Angeles go to 8-1 while they go to 7-1, this could easily be the NFC Championship matchup. I'm excited about this game. This is what makes the NFL so great is you get top teams playing each other at each other's home stadiums, and you got to decide it out in the regular season.
Yes, you do. All right, the next one, and to me this is the biggest matchup of the week. The Saints and the Rams will probably be the biggest matchup, but this next matchup, if I was going hiking up on a very tall mountaintop and I ran into two different goats, I would name them Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. So I ask you, Chris America, the battle of the GOATs.
Who's your daddy?
Yeah, this is also game number 2 of the week. It is equally as great as game number 1 of the week with the Los Angeles and New Orleans. This is going to be an exciting matchup, and I don't know how to call this one, man. I think Green Bay, they really, really, really need a win, but it's tough to fly all the way out to L.A., get beat on by 2 points by the Rams, then fly back to Green Bay for a couple of practices, then fly all the way back over to New England. That's a lot of miles on this team, Loudbeard. It seems kind of unfair that they had to go play the number 1 team in the NFC and then turn around and go play arguably the number 1 team in the AFC back to back. But that's what a real grind looks like, Loudbeard. And it's a game that needs to happen more often. If there's one thing I can complain about the NFL, it's their scheduling policies with AFC versus NFC. We needed to see more Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. That needs to be fixed. Somehow the NFL needs to come up with a way that if a great quarterback exists in the AFC, the great quarterback exists in the NFC, they need to play at least every other season.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Now, if Rodgers was in the AFC, it would almost be like when it was the Colts versus the Patriots. We're at the end of Tom Brady's career here. He's still looking strong, but we forget that when it was the Peyton Manning Indianapolis Colts going up against the New England Patriot, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, they would schedule them in the regular season every year, and it was electric. The fireworks, the pageantry, everybody loved watching this game, and that's what you're trying to get back to. You're saying, you know what? We have Aaron Rodgers right here in the NFC, just because they're in different conferences. We're going AFC, NFC. We don't see this matchup enough. But maybe the NFL decided to get it right this year. Maybe they decided, you know what, this is what the fans want, and this is what we need in the Brady-Rodgers matchup this year. I'm ready for it. Let's do it. GOAT versus GOAT. I'm going Billy Goat versus angry other GOAT, and Billy Goat wins.
Who's the Billy Goat?
I don't know. You're going to have to find out.
All right. Well, you can come in on Monday and say, I'm a genius. I told you so. But Loudbeard, the reason why this game is happening now is because the NFL's scheduling policy is you rotate out divisions from the other conference. So you play the NFC North this year, the next year you play the NFC South, and the next year after that, NFC East, and so on and so forth. I get it. They're trying to keep it uniform. They're trying to make sure that everybody in the division plays the same teams, and that way you can kind of look at their records and say, all right, you have the better record, so you're the better team, but they need to fix something. I don't know what it is. Maybe just have 1 or 2 games that are just off the wall out of the other conference. I don't know. We'll see, but Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady needed to happen more. Aaron Rodgers versus Peyton Manning needed to happen more. I mean, they played in the same league for, 7, 8 years together, and they probably played twice, if I'm not mistaken, but once every 4 years is not enough.
Yeah, it's like leap year.
Yeah. I like that, leading out with awkward silence.
That's my social awkwardness at its best.
Top notch, man. Friday weekend, man. We're going to have another weekend.
Friday.
Hoo-hoo.